Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this event organized by the Parkinson's Disease Movement Disorder Society. The Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society is an all-India charitable society working towards improving the lives of people with Parkinson's and their families. We have free online Parkinson's sessions during this lockdown where we provide information about Parkinson's, information on diet and nutrition, strength and flexibility exercise programs, walking and balance programs, cognitive exercises and exercises to keep your brain active and healthy. We do have sessions on mental health and phone counseling services available. We do sessions on speech, following therapy, and we also have sessions on dance and other activities for people with Parkinson's. In addition to this, we have special sessions online for care partners of people with Parkinson's, a special group for young onset Parkinson's, and we do a lot of programs for people with Parkinson's like yoga and Tai Chi and other recent advances in therapy for people. In addition to this, the I request everyone to please mute themselves. Thank you. In addition to this, the Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society also conducts programs to ensure healthy lives and to promote well-being through their program called Habits of a Healthy Brain. And we're happy to announce that this program is now online and it's open to all people. And if you want to register, please do contact us and we will put your name down, and please leave your contact details like your number and your email address, and we'll let you know when our next session is. The PDMDS also started an educational series where we hope to inform other people about Parkinson's and other neurological conditions in the elderly. And today is our first session in this PDMDS educational series. So thank you everyone for joining us today. So these are the details if you would like to register for any of our programs, or if you know anyone who has Parkinson's, please do ask them to contact us on our mobile phones, on via email, through any of our social media like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And also, if you want to know more information about Parkinson's and keep up to date with what the society is doing, please do follow us on social media. This is just to inform you that all the exercises and information provided by the PDMDS is to help to promote a healthy lifestyle and to support you. Before following any exercise program or any information given on this during this webinar, please do contact your doctor. Also, we'd like to inform you that the sessions are being recorded and photographed, and it would be used for educational and awareness purposes. तो PDMDS द्वारा प्रदान किए गए अभ्यास और जानकारी का उद्देश्य एक स्वस्थ जीवन शैली को बढ़ावा देने के लिए है। प्लीज आपके डॉक्टर से पूछ के ये व्यायाम करो, और कृपया ध्यान दें कि ये सत्र रिकॉर्ड किया जा रहे हैं और फोटो भी खींची जा रही है, जो PDMDS की संपत्ति है। Before we move on to our first session today, which is preventing, identifying, and managing stroke, I would like to request the CEO of the Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorder Society, Dr. Maria Barreto, to please introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, Nicole. On behalf of Dr. B.S. Singhal and the PDMDS, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce Dr. Anil Venkatachalam, our speaker at today's webinar. This webinar, as you've heard, is part of our educational series organized by us, and Dr. Anil will inform us on preventing, identifying, and managing stroke. Dr. Anil is currently a neurology and movement disorder consultant at the Hirunandani and Nanavati Hospital and at the Reliance Hospital in Navi Mumbai. He has over 12 years experience in the field, including a postdoctoral fellowship in movement disorders at the University of Alberta, Canada. He has several research publications in international journals and has been part of various landmark clinical studies. We at PDMDS are extremely grateful to him for being part of all our endeavors, which range from walking the ramp for a designer at our fundraiser fashion show, speaking at our various forums, and most important, encouraging people with Parkinson's to attend our support and rehabilitation programs through which we strive to improve the quality of their lives. So welcome, Dr. Anil. Over to you.
Hi. So good morning, everybody. I would like to actually thank you all for giving me this opportunity. I'm going to speak on a very important topic. The topic is stroke management. Stroke, as we all know in layman's terms, is also called as LAQUA or a paralysis. So there are certain facts about the stroke. We say that stroke is the 4th leading cause of death in the world. It causes a significant amount of a disability, morbidity, and mortality. There is a significant loss of man hours, and it causes a significant burden to family and society. Last year alone, in the US, it was estimated that they lost $500 billion due to stroke. तो अगर आपके फैमिली में किसी को लकवा हुआ है, हम लोग एक्चुअली अंडरस्टैंड कर सकते हैं कि क्या प्रॉब्लम होती है. अगर किसी को लकवा होता है ऐसे सिचुएशन में, जॉब जाती है पेशेंट की, फिर जो भी घर वाले रहते हैं उनको अपना लाइफस्टाइल एडजस्ट करना पड़ता है पेशेंट के लिए. As a result of which there is a lot of problems which patients and patients' relatives or the caregivers face in treating a stroke. So today I'm going to educate people. I will try and educate people with what best we can do and how do we try and prevent the strokes. Okay. So again, we always keep saying this, we keep hearing this, you know, India is a very young population. India is a very young population. But we have to realize that this young population is going to become old at some point of time. So the demographic advantage that we have at this point of time is going to become old by 2030 or 2040. And we are going to see a significant risk in vascular diseases and strokes. So we are going to face the same problems which Japan, China, and the United States have faced, you know, in the past. You know, we had the baby boomer generation in the US in the 60s and 70s. Now there is a significant rise in strokes. So जैसे ही age increase होता जाता है, वैसे लकवा का risk increase होता जाता है. There's another thing that we always keep saying, you know, लोग बोलते हैं कि जो stroke होता है या लकवा होता है, elderly people में ही होता है या senior citizens में ही होता है. This is actually a misnomer or a misconception. So now stroke is changing. There is a changing face of stroke. And it's not just an inevitability of old age. ऐसा नहीं होता है कि 60 के बाद या 60 साल के बाद ही लकवा होता है. We see strokes in people who are youngsters, who are children, who are in their school going age, in the middle-aged people, again in people who are in their working age, under the age of 40. आजकल हम लोग 40 के नीचे बहुत से लोग को देखते हैं जिनको लकवा हो जाता है. So it is very important for us to understand why people get a stroke and how do we prevent this. So we need to realize one thing: stroke is not a disease of old age. It can happen in any age group. So this is another thing we need to realize. अक्सर पेशेंट आते हैं हमारे पास और बोलते हैं सर उसको भी लकवा हुआ था लेकिन पेशेंट एकदम अच्छा हो गया है. So it depends. Every stroke is different. मतलब if like two people have the same stroke, one may recover faster, the other patient may recover slower, or he may have a significant amount of a disability. Strokes are unpredictable. Sometimes a patient can have a very small stroke and he may remain completely paralyzed. At the other end of the spectrum, you may have a patient who's had a large stroke and he may not have any symptoms. It is life changing. And similar strokes can behave differently depending upon the age. So you need to realize this. So if you have a stroke in your 20s and you have a stroke in your 80s, it may behave in a different manner. Also, we need to realize that world over, every 40 seconds, there is a patient who is having a stroke. This is very similar to a patient having a heart attack. So जैसे हार्ट अटैक होता है वैसे ही स्ट्रोक भी होता है लोगों को, लेकिन हार्ट अटैक के मामले में लोगों को दर्द होता है तो people can feel it. With respect to a stroke, people ignore some of the symptoms. That's also there. So what is a stroke? A stroke is a condition which is caused a disease to the blood vessel in the brain. So in the brain, we have the blood flow which is there. The stroke can be either a block or it can be a bleed. So basically, आपके जो blood flow रहता है brain में, उसमें अगर आपको एक clot आ जाए या block आ जाए, उसके वजह से आपको लकवा हो सकता है, जिसके वजह से आगे का जो blood flow है, वो रुक जाता है, या आपकी नस जो है, वो फट सकती है. There is a blood vessel which bursts, as a result of which you can have, a hemorrhage. So we need to realize there are basically two types of strokes. One is a block, which is a clot, which causes an ischemia or a lowering of the blood flow. And one is a bleed, where there's a massive rupture of the blood vessel, and patient can have the consequences as a result of that. So whenever a patient has a stroke, we ask three questions. Is it a stroke? If there is a stroke, where is the stroke? And what caused the stroke? And another thing is we need to realize that not everything that we think is a stroke might be a stroke. So there are other causes of a stroke, or which look like a stroke, what we call as stroke mimics. मतलब लकवे जैसा दिखता है, लेकिन शायद लकवा नहीं है. So जैसे लो शुगर हुआ, लो सोडियम हुआ, माइग्रेन हुआ, सर दर्द हुआ, ब्रेन में कोई ट्यूमर हुआ, कोई इन्फेक्शन हुआ. कभी कभार साइकियाट्री पेशेंट्स भी आते हैं इसके साथ, जहाँ पे वो लोग बोलते हैं कि एक साइड बीच में पैरालाइज हो जाती है और उसके बाद वो रिकवर हो जाते हैं. तो आपको फाइंड आउट करना पड़ता है कि वो एक्चुअली स्ट्रोक है कि नहीं है, या एक्चुअली लकवा है कि नहीं है, और उसके बाद आपको आगे का ट्रीटमेंट करना पड़ता है. आपको ये भी जानना चाहिए कि लकवे जैसे कुछ चीजें हैं या कुछ कंडीशंस है, कुछ बीमारियां है जो लकवे जैसी दिखती है, और उसको भी हमें रूल आउट करना पड़ता है. स्पेशली हमारे देश में जो डायबिटिक्स रहते हैं, लो शुगर के वजह से उनको लकवे जैसा इफेक्ट आ सकता है. यू नीड टू रियलाइज दैट. या जिनको माइग्रेन होता है उनको लकवे जैसा इफेक्ट आ सकता है. या जिनको फिट आता है, फिट की बीमारी जो बोलते हैं, या सीजर होता है, उनको लकवे जैसा इफेक्ट आ सकता है. सो वी नीड टू रियलाइज दैट. Again, as I said, there are two types. It can be because of an arterial stroke or a venous stroke. Again, it can be because of a block or a bleed. I will try to explain it. See here, the first one where I've written an ischemic stroke, you can see a small clot which is blocked the entire area of the brain. The second one is a bleeding where there is a blood vessel which is burst and that has caused a bleeding. The third one is what we call as a subdural hemorrhage, जो लोग brain hemorrhage बोलते हैं, जहाँ पे सर होल्ड करते हैं और उसके बाद उनको ब्लीडिंग हो जाता है. देयर इज दिस क्लासिकल movie where Amitabh Bachchan actually is walking on the road and then he holds his head, as if he's getting a massive headache. I don't know what's the name. I think it's like Majboor or something like that. That is the description of a subarachnoid hemorrhage, the classical description, where there is bleeding around the brain. मतलब आपका जो ब्रेन है उसके ऊपर के एरिया में आपको ब्लीडिंग हो जाता है, जिसको सब अरेक्नॉइड हेमरेज बोलते हैं, या ब्रेन के जो स्किन है उसमें ब्लीडिंग हो जाती है. फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पसेस, about 80% of the patients present with an ischemic stroke because of a block in the blood vessel. So we will try to restrict ourselves to that, and the causes are the same for almost all of them. So we will also try to cover all the other causes and how to prevent the strokes. So when we look at the risk factors, जब आप लोग risk factor देखते हैं, the most common risk factors, you can go through this list. Anybody who is there in this list, you will know whether you are at risk for a stroke or not at risk for a stroke. High blood pressure is a risk factor. Heart problem like atrial fibrillation, when your heart is beating irregularly, या आपका heart फरफराता है, it is a risk factor. Smoking is a very high risk factor. high cholesterol is a risk factor. Diabetes, extremely common in our country. People don't, people really don't focus on that. It is a big risk factor. Today, people speak about diabetes as if it is another part of their surname. When I ask them, do you have any other diseases? वो लोग तो बोलते हैं कि हमें तो diabetes तो है ही, as if it's something very casual. It is something you need to address, because longer the duration of diabetes, longer the chances of vascular events. You need to realize that. Exercise, people who don't do any exercise are at very high risk to get vascular events. Diet, a bad diet can surely cause, the Indian diet, which I always keep saying is not a very good diet. It's something which I call as a carbo bomb. We haven't changed. Even when we go for a wedding, we can see sweets, we can see all the starches, we can see the carbohydrates, and it's more of a cultural problem here in our country. We don't have the balanced diet which is there, and we haven't changed that mentality also. So we need to change our diet, as a result of which we lower the risk of strokes and vascular events. If there is a family history, so anybody who has a family history of a stroke, again, is at risk. So if you've got any family member, either a brother, sister, father, mother, or your grandparents who've had a stroke, or there is a very strong vascular history or family history, then you need to address it. Okay. There are some non-modifiable risk factors like structural problems, age, for example, age over 65. Women are usually protected under the age of 50. After menopause, women are not protected. So estrogen has got some protective effect. So the hormones, जो ladies लोग को hormones होती है, वो एक protective effect देता है patients को. So what are the symptoms of a stroke? So very simple. Any numbness or weakness of one side of the body, any confusion, any trouble in speaking, so speech problems, जब आपका ज़बान लड़खड़ाता है, understanding problems, when you're confused, you're not able to understand, trouble seeing, so any vision problems, you will say that you're not seeing one part, or you're having something like a double vision, trouble walking, dizziness or loss of balance. अगर जब आप walk करते हो, आपको ऐसे लगता है कि आप गिरने वाले हो या आप लड़खड़ाने वाले हो, and sudden severe headache with no known cause. एक नॉर्मल पेशेंट को हेडेक नहीं होनी चाहिए. हम लोग अक्सर पेशेंट बोलते हैं कि हमें साधारण सा हेडेक है, which may be a migraine, which is fine. But if you have a headache which is intractable, which is very sudden, very severe, you don't have a background of headaches, then it's something you need to address. For all practical purposes, I always tell that if you can't remember the symptoms, remember this: be fast, B-E-F-A-S-T. B stands for balance, E stands for eyes, so eye signs, that is eye deviation, double vision, vision problems. F is for facial deviation, A is for arm weakness, S is for speech weakness, and T stands for time, so immediately go to the hospital. Don't go to your general practitioner or wait for the CT scan or wait for the MRI scan and then afterwards address the issue, because an acute stroke is treatable and you can limit the damage. So again, I will go in Hindi. Balance means आपको चलने में problem हो जाएगा. Eyes, E stands for eyes, मतलब आपकी आंखों में problem हो सकती है, जैसे आंखों की रोशनी suddenly जा सकती है या आपको दो दिखेगा. Face, that is आपका जो मुंह है उसमें facial deviation आ सकता है, एक side मुंह टेढ़ा हो सकता है. Arms, आपका हाथ weak हो सकता है. Speech, आपका जबान लड़खड़ा सकता है. And T stands for time, आपको जल्द से जल्द आपको treatment लेना पड़ेगा. So again, I will focus on acute ischemic stroke a little bit so that you understand. So it is treatable and preventable. There are clot buster medications. So aspirin is not a clot buster medicine. It is not a blood thinner. Aspirin will only prevent a stroke. Clopidogrel or your heart medicines will only prevent a stroke. The only treatment medicine which is injectable and available is what we call as TPA. It is Altiplase, where we just inject it within 4.5 hours and the clot is burst. So it's basically a clot busting like medication. It's not something which you can just use, but it is in trained hands, it is safe and effective. So what used to happen? This is what यही होता था बेसिकली पुराने जमाने में. अगर किसी को लकवा होता था तो डॉक्टर उनके घर जाता था, उनका बीपी माप लेता था और उनको एस्पिरिन देता था. उसके बाद वो पेशेंट वही के वही पड़े रहते जिंदगी भर जब तक वो रहते हैं. एंड देन आफ्टर दैट आइदर दे रिकवर ऑन देयर ओन, अपने आप से रिकवरी हो जाती है, या बेसिकली बेड रिडन हो जाते हैं. एंड देन दे लीड देयर लाइफ लाइक दैट, जिसमें बहुत से दिक्कतें और प्रॉब्लम होती है पेशेंट को. आज वो कॉन्सेप्ट चेंज हुआ है. आज क्या होता है कि अगर एक पेशेंट को लकवे जैसे सिम्टम्स आते हैं, आपको इमीडिएटली पेशेंट को रश करना पड़ता है टू द नियरेस्ट हॉस्पिटल वेयर देयर इज मेडिकल केयर अवेलेबल. एंड दिस इज समथिंग सीनियर सिटीजन शुड रियलाइज, बिकॉज once you get a stroke and if you don't reverse the symptoms of the stroke, you are completely dependent. So अगर हम लोग देखेंगे, जब एक लकवा होता है आपके 3 एरिया होते हैं. One area is where there is an infarct, where the blood flow is completely gone. The second area is around that area where there is a low flow but there is still some blood supply. The third area is a normal area. You can see that as the time increases, the area of the stroke keeps on rising and the normal area keeps on reducing. So that means लकवा बढ़ता जाता है. अगर पहले दिन आप लकवे के साथ जाओगे, एक साइड में आपको वीकनेस हो जाएगी, दूसरे तीसरे चौथे दिन आपका वीकनेस बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगा. सो लकवा बढ़ता जाता है. सो आवर एम इज टू कीप दैट लिमिटेड. I'll try to show you the graphic again. See, the red area is the area of the stroke where the paralysis happens. The green area is the area which is viable but the blood flow is less, and the white area is normal. Keep your eye on that. When a patient has a stroke, initially the red area, the area of the infarct is very small, and and the green area is a big area which is called as the area of penumbra, which can be salvaged. After 6 hours, we can see that the green area has increased. It has gone into the white area, that is the normal area. Also, the red area has increased. It has gone into the green area. So that means the stroke is actually increasing in size. You see, after 24 hours, you have both the red area and the green area, which are almost close to each other. That is why the maximum effects of a stroke are not seen immediately. They are seen in the first week of a stroke. A lot of times patients come to us and say, sir, हम तो चल के आए थे आपके पास, लेकिन अभी तो कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा. Or the relatives ask this question. That is because people don't understand this concept. The infarct increases over a period of time unless you try and limit that. So our basic aim is, if you can give the blood thinning medication, you try to restrict that area into that small zone, that black area. Again, why I say that? Every minute you lose about 1.9 million cells. So I'll show it in another way. A stroke accelerates aging. So that means at the end of each stroke, a person ages by 36 years. So for example, if a 40-year-old gentleman gets a stroke today, at the end of the stroke, his body is equal to that of somebody who is 76 years old. I am not making this up. This is a scientific proof which I'm saying. So what happens is, in every stroke, you lose 36 years of your life. Every hour, you lose 3.6 years of your life. Every minute, you lose 3 weeks. Every second, you lose 8 hours. So that's why we keep saying, in a stroke, every second counts. Every second counts. Probably a lot of people don't explain that aspect. But the basic thing is this. I want to show you this. This is a man who's in his 40s, and this is the same man who's in his 70s. If he gets a stroke at this point of time, and it's a big stroke, he will end up like this. Maybe not physically, but biologically. तो आपको understand करना पड़ेगा कि stroke accelerates aging. Based on this, there is what we call as the recommendations. As soon as the patient goes to the hospital, he has to be treated within 60 minutes and everything should be completed within 3 hours. So one common mistake we always make is we wait for the physician, the general physician then shifts the patient for an MRI or a CT scan, wait for the report the next day, then wait for another opinion to the neurologist, then go and see the neurologist after 2 or 3 days, by which time you've lost all your time. So the focus is now moving to stroke teams, जहाँ पे एक पूरा टीम रहता है, जहाँ पे एक न्यूरोलॉजिस्ट, रेडियोलॉजिस्ट, इमरजेंसी फिजिशियन, स्ट्रोक नर्स, फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट सब लोग रहते हैं. And without them, you cannot actually complete stroke care. And you don't have to wait for the neurologist to give these medications or thrombolysis. So as I'm saying, there is an art and science to it. You have to select the case, you have to select the people. And there are basically two ways by which you can do it. One is intravenous by giving the injection. And there is a mechanical where you can suck out the clot. Expensive, but it is still beneficial in a small group of patients. And it should be used if expense is not a problem. So we always make the diagnosis clinically or on the basis of your MRI. And then we have the history. We should know when was the patient last normal, what are the recent events like stroke, heart attack, trauma, head injury or surgery, whether the patient has any comorbid problems like high BP, high sugars, and whether he's been on any blood thinning medications like anticoagulants, insulin or BP medications. So again, a lot of patients keep saying this, sir, we don't want to give these clot busting medications. It's associated with risk. It's very expensive and everything. Please understand one thing, that we don't hesitate to do anything for a heart attack. You know, we even go ahead, we do an angioplasty, we do angiography, we give the blood thinning medications, we give the thrombolysis. This is very similar. So, and if people can spend with respect to the heart, you can spend with respect to the brain also. A lot of times we are worried about the heart because we are worried about the impending fear of death. Perfect. Heart may be associated with a high mortality, but understand that the brain is associated with a high morbidity. So morbidity means if you don't treat a stroke, you may end up being paralyzed for the rest of your life. And that could be worse. You don't want to live like that for 15 or 20 years. So you have to change your mindset. You have to change the concept also out there. Even physicians, general practitioners, everybody. So if we can thrombolyze patients who have heart attacks, we can surely thrombolyze patients who have a stroke. Again, as I said, we have the natural history of a stroke, where within around 8 hours, we do the reperfusion strategies. There are complications associated. Again, an expert doctor will take care. The patient is then transferred to a stroke unit care. There are problems in the stroke unit. You can have infections, cardiac issues. You can get recurrent strokes. You can get seizures. You can get fits. And then patient is discharged. After discharge, again, I keep saying this, if you want recovery, you need to focus on rehabilitation and secondary prevention. Why I have said all this is now we are going to the second part. And I always tell this to my patients. If they have spent X amount in the hospital, they have to spend again an X amount at home with physiotherapy, rehab, etc. to get the best response. Without physiotherapists, we will not get the best response. Please understand that aspect also. A lot of people again in our country try to cut on that cost. It is like, for example, you do a knee replacement surgery or you do a hip replacement surgery. The surgery is successful. But if you want the best results, you will have to get the physiotherapist to get your muscles moving. The same thing needs to be done out here. Without that, your recovery from a stroke will be suboptimal, and all the efforts that have been taken by the doctors would not be very effective. So there are various steps in stroke care. One is the symptom recognition, early treatment, hospital care, home care, and palliative care. मतलब there are 5 factors. तो पहले आपको basically पता करना पड़ेगा कि कौन से problems है आपको, क्या symptoms हैं, वो symptoms को आपको treat करना पड़ेगा, hospital में treat करना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद आपको physiotherapy और home care करनी पड़ेगी, और finally अगर patient improve नहीं हुआ तो आपको palliative care. Palliative care मतलब the patient might not have a complete recovery, but you make their life as comfortable as possible so that you are giving them a reasonably good quality of life and you're giving them dignity in their life. Don't let them just lie there. You need to treat a patient with dignity, which is very important. So home care mein, there are certain things. One is home changes, post-stroke complications, communication and medications. So there are certain changes you make at home. You have to have the railings at home. You have to have no table or furniture. Carpets are actually removed. Basically, you keep mats, anti-slip mats. You keep, means you train the patient to use a pot at night, use alarms, etc. Use videos at home or use basically CCTV cameras and monitor these patients. Have an attender at all points of time to supervise these patients. Okay. Post-stroke patient can have complications like he can have bed sores, he can have infections, he can have loss of weight because of poor appetite. So all these need to be taken care of. Some patients have speech issues, so communication becomes a problem. You may not be able to understand what the patient is speaking. So you have to have communication tools. And please don't forget that you need to give the medications on time to these patients. So as I said, you can see there is home care. It's not so good in India because a lot of times again patients don't understand the concept. There is a lot of occupational therapy which you can do. So for example, if you can't use your hands, you have spoons which have rubber bands and you can use it with your fingers. Or you have basically you have the toothbrushes which can be attached to the fingers and then you can brush your teeth. So similarly, you have other aspects, other things. You have the railings at home. You have other things with which you can hold objects and hold things. And then you have the walkers and the assisted devices which help you to mobilize around. It gives you a sense of independence. If you are not independent and you're going to be bedridden, you're going to have psychological complications. Patient might be depressed, patient might be suicidal, patient might hallucinate, patient might develop a dementia. So you need to realize all that. So you need to get early mobilization, get them on the road, get them moving. Then there are communication issues after a stroke. So how do you improve it? So one is you speak to the patient. You need to keep speaking. You need to be patient and understand. It's like a patient who has a stroke and speech problems is like a small child. You may not be able to understand. Try to look for non-verbal communication. Look for emotions. Look for anger. Look for frowning, the facial expressions, making speech sounds, reading, writing, using numbers, etc. Nowadays, there are so many good apps which are available which help you to speak. But you need to spend time. Lot of times, the lack of stroke care is because we are not ready to spend time. We are busy in our own worlds and we are not ready to spend time. And I can have a look at most of the relatives and I can see if they're spending time or not. It's hardly a 5-minute job. You can just look at them and you can see if the son might be spending money, but he might not be spending time. Spending money is not equal to spending time. So you may have all the money in the world, but you may not be in a position to have recovery from stroke unless you're able to take pains. So there are people who have converted their houses into ICUs in the hope that stroke will become all right. But at the end of the day, the stroke will not become all right by converting your house into an ICU. Or you may have the best doctors who may come at home and they may sit for 3 hours or 4 hours. But if you're not going to have a dedicated plan of action, the recovery from a stroke will not happen. So how do you help these patients? You have gestures, you have writing, you have drawing, speech, use communication aids like keyboards, picture charts and amplifiers and facial expression. So we have the life after a stroke. So the life after a stroke, the first thing is you need to take charge of your life, have an action plan for health, keep your action plan, choose healthy food. There is enough evidence that the Mediterranean diet, which we call as a Mind-Dash diet, helps to prevent or helps reduce the recurrences, improve nutrition. One common thing is patients start losing weight, their nutrition goes down. Most of them cannot drive after a stroke. If they are driving, they need to be supervised. There are a lot of emotional changes and depression after a stroke. You need to address it. This is something which is under-recognized. I always work with a psychologist or a psychiatrist in my team. One advantage is because I do a lot of Parkinson's work, we have the same team which is available and they're also able to help out the stroke patients. Again, lot of caregiver stress. There's a lot of caregiver stress. Sometimes we forget that caregivers don't, are ignored. So the caregivers could have stress. Swallowing and eating, a lot of patients have swallowing problems and eating problems, so you need to take care of that. Then there are other useful things like helpful devices, home modifications, taking care of incontinence. So, bladder bowel could be a problem. So you need to use diapers. You need to use, training aids for that. Hand, foot, skin care. Bed sore is the worst thing you can have for a patient. These patients can't walk. They can't, they can't scratch their backs. They may be itchy. And if they have, very poor skin care, the quality of life will go down and they will never improve. There could be pain and mobility because of contractures, not moving the joints, fatigue, sexual activity. If they're able to do hobbies, recreational activities, you need to encourage. Basically, what I have enlisted is that we try to bring them to normal work. If you see, returning to work is the second last point which I have put. And if they are not able to return to work, we change their careers and we don't just send them home. We try to give them an alternative career where at least we can do some amount of rehab. Unfortunately, in our country, again, changing careers, not very good because, again, the government help is not really very good with respect to that. But once we are able to advise the patient or like nudge the patient towards that, they would figure out something. If we just leave the patient saying that you go home and take care of yourself, he's not going to have any action plan ahead. So you need to plan this. So skin care, oral care, swallowing, nutrition, diet, having an action plan, modifying their health, and then getting them back on track. So how do you prevent it? So you prevent obesity, you ensure good exercise. Obstructive sleep apnea, again, is a very high risk for a stroke. So you need to see that that is taken care of with a BiPAP or a CPAP. Avoid alcohol use, avoid smoking, avoid drug use, control your diabetes, control heart disease, control your cholesterol, control your blood pressure. These are the risk factors and you need to prevent this. Very simple. Remember GHOST, glucose, hypertension, obesity, and serum triglycerides, that is GHOST, G-H-O-S-T. S also stands for sleep apnea. So basically, it includes all the risk factors. So what are the important things for a patient in stroke? So there are the four important things in stroke prevention, which I call as meds. I always tell my patients, have you taken your meds? So the medications are an important part which we take care of, but remember, that's just 1/3 of the problem. The other two parts include exercise and your diet. If your diet is not good, you will get another stroke, no matter what medications you take on time. And if you don't do any cardio exercise, you are again a high risk factor. We are not changing the disease. By giving medications, by controlling your sugars, we are not changing the disease. The process has already started. So you have to make some changes to reverse that process. So I'll just give you two examples so that you know how we work in patients with acute stroke. The first one is a 65-year-old male who's a diabetic, hypertensive, and a stroke and a smoker. He came with right-sided weakness and inability to speak since 1 hour, had a BP of 160/90. His stroke scale, what we said, was around 10. So we can see here, he's got a small area of stroke. The entire perfusion is less on one part of the brain, and the MRI is showing a cutoff. You can see that the entire MCA is gone. There is a clot out here. So he's given this intravenous injection, and then you have limited the stroke. You can see that the stroke is limited and the blood vessel has opened up. So he's doing well. But we just treated it at this point of time. He needs to make wholesale changes in his life, stop smoking, control his sugars, control his blood pressure, etc. So another patient, 40-year-old gentleman, no risk factors. He presented with intermittent right-sided weakness. It was fluctuating. Sometimes it was mild, sometimes it was severe. He had no other comorbidities. When he came, he had a very small stroke. So the decision was, should we thrombolize, should we not thrombolize? Then we can see that there is a small block for this patient out here. We can see that there's a small block. The blood flow is impaired. So he's thrombolized, and after that, a stenting is done for this patient, and then he's had a good stroke recovery. So I always tell that, remember the 3 R's: recognize the signs, reach a medical facility, reduce the risk, prevent the recurrence, and rehabilitate. So recognize signs, reduce the risk, and rehabilitate. 3 important things. So I always keep saying stroke is treatable. Early identification is the key. Mobilization and treatment is the key. Focus on door-to-needle time. As soon as you get it, go to the hospital, seek medical care. And successful thrombolysis reduces morbidity and mortality, saves lives. So stroke is a treatable disease. It needs to be identified. I would like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak to you all. If there are any questions in the house, I would be glad to sort it out for you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil. And yes, there are a lot of questions in the house ready for you. But thank you for that talk. And I think it was very good balance of medical information, but also the rehabilitation and what people can actually do to prevent the occurrence of a stroke or another stroke. So beginning with the first question, when a person is having a stroke and before the ambulance actually arrives, is there something that people can do for the person who is showing symptoms of a stroke?
Actually, there is not much that you can actually do. If the patient is showing symptoms of a stroke, we basically wait for the ambulance to arrive. And then one common mistake which people make is they give the patients aspirin. We don't know whether it's a bleed or a clot. So you don't give these patients aspirin. Just reassure the patient and try to get medical help at the earliest. That's all I would say. You just need to reassure the patient that don't worry, things will be fine and you can be treated.
If I could just add, a lot of people tend to give the person water, or is there any position that they should ideally be sitting in, or should they be lying down until the ambulance arrives?
So water, sugar, you can give all that. Basically, it's not really going to make a huge difference. Sugar, yes, if it's a low blood sugar, it will immediately reverse it. So that's one thing you could probably do. But okay, somebody is asked to explain this in like Marathi or Hindi language. So shall I speak in Hindi? Is that fine?
Sure.
Okay. जो प्रश्न इन्होंने पूछा है कि जब एक पेशेंट को स्ट्रोक होता है तो इनिशियली क्या कर सकते हैं हम लोग घर पे, तो यूजुअली हम लोग मेडिकल केयर के लिए वेट करते हैं. लेकिन अगर आप लोग घर पे हो, पेशेंट को सिर्फ आश्वासन देना है, आपको रिएश्योर करना है कि कुछ नहीं होगा, हम लोग मेडिकल केयर लेंगे आपके लिए. अगर उनको देना है, यू कैन गिव देम सम वाटर और जूस, दैट्स फाइन. बिकॉज अगर वो लो शुगर है तो लो शुगर इमीडिएटली करेक्ट हो जाता है. अगर पेशेंट को समथिंग लाइक अ हेडेक या कुछ है, यू कैन गिव अ सिम्प्टोमेटिक मेडिकेशन जिससे उनका हेडेक चला जाएगा. बट दैट्स द मैक्सिमम यू वुड डू. कोई ब्लड थिनर या कोई एस्पिरिन या कुछ या इंजेक्शन कुछ मत देना पेशेंट के लिए. और बीपी कम करने के लिए गोली मत देना वो टाइम पे, क्योंकि कभी कभार अक्सर हम लोग बीपी चेक करते हैं और बीपी हायर साइड पे रहता है. और अगर बीपी हायर साइड पे रहता है वो रिएक्शनरी होता है. अगर आप बीपी कम करने के लिए इमीडिएटली वो टाइम पे गोली दोगे, वो लकवा उल्टा बढ़ जाता है. सो दैट इज वन थिंग वी डोंट डू. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी ट्राई टू टेल देम डोंट डू थिंग्स. ज्यादा मत कीजिएगा, सिर्फ आश्वासन दीजिएगा पेशेंट को. हाँ, पेशेंट को कोई फिट आ गया या पेशेंट को कोई लाइक मिर्गी जैसे सिम्टम्स आ गए, तो आपको सिर्फ एक साइड पे पेशेंट को रखना है, कीप द क्लोथ्स लूज, ताकि पेशेंट को ब्रीदिंग में कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. The next question is, अगर एक बार लकवा हुआ तो बार बार लकवा हो सकता है?
Yes.
Can you get stroke multiple times?
बार बार हो सकता है, लकवा हो सकता है. So basically what happens is when we treat a stroke, we need to find out what is the stroke mechanism. किस कारण से लकवा हुआ है आपको फाइंड आउट करना पड़ता है. ब्लड के प्रॉब्लम के वजह से हुआ है, हार्ट के प्रॉब्लम के वजह से हुआ है, या ब्रेन के ब्लड वेसल्स में कोई प्रॉब्लम है कि नहीं. तो अगर आप किस कारण से हुआ है वो फाइंड आउट करते हो और उसको ट्रीट करते हो, then we will be able to reduce the risk of a stroke. आपको ये भी याद रखना पड़ेगा कि जितना भी आप ट्रीट करोगे with the best medical management, आपका best response, you have a 20% risk of stroke. So 20%, 20% risk तो है ही, whatever you do. Even aspirin is not a cure, clopidogrel is not a cure, Clexane injections are not a cure. So whatever you do, you get a 20, means there is a 20% risk which is there. What we try to focus on, जो हम लोग focus करते हैं, is on risk factor reduction. अगर आपका risk factor reduce होता है, definitely आपका risk भी reduce होता है. Of course, there is a small group of patients who don't respond to anything, but most often, अगर आप आपके risk factors को reduce करोगे, you can prevent recurrence of a stroke.
Thank you very much. Sorry, it's really a full house, so we have a lot of questions coming in.
I don't mind. I have enough time. I mean, I don't know how much time you all have. I can patiently sit and answer all the questions if you want.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you so much. We're going to try and take in as many questions as we can. The next question is, does stroke increase the risk of Alzheimer's or dementia or psychiatric illnesses like schizophrenia?
Okay. So stroke increases the risk of dementia. Stroke does not increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative process where the brain shrinks on its own. Psychiatric problems do not happen in the elderly as a rule. It happens more in the younger age group. So stroke itself can cause psychiatric problems and psychosis. It can cause severe depression, depending upon the area that is involved. But stroke causes something called as a multi-infarct state or vascular dementia. So definitely, if you don't treat the stroke, there is a risk of patients developing a vascular dementia, which is different from Alzheimer's, but it is more difficult to treat. Please understand one thing, Alzheimer's patients, I always keep saying, are pleasantly demented. I mean, they are happy-go-lucky, they are just demented, they are fine. Whereas vascular dementia patients are not very pleasantly demented. They have motor speech problems, behavioral issues, and other issues. Alzheimer's patients, are, it's actually a good disease to have because patient is not aware of what problems they have. But there is no risk that strokes per se increase the risk of Alzheimer's, but recurrent strokes increase the risk of you developing vascular dementia, definitely. And it also increases the risk of you developing vascular Parkinson's. There is an entity called as vascular Parkinson's, which is worse, where you can't walk, you may be mentally fine. So again, that increases the risk and you could have a vascular Parkinson's.
Okay, thank you very much. You answered the next question, was whether there was a relation between Parkinson's and stroke.
So it sometimes unmasks, underlying Parkinson's disease, but definitely recurrent strokes, uncontrolled hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, especially if it causes small vessel changes, can cause symptoms called as lower body Parkinson's, which is not like classical Parkinson's. Classical Parkinson's do well with medications. These people don't do well with medications. So that's why stroke prevention is the key.
Thank you very much. क्या कुछ रिलेशन है हार्ट अटैक और स्ट्रोक में कुछ रिलेशन है क्योंकि
डेफिनेटली रिलेशन है. द इशू इज जो प्रोसेस हार्ट अटैक कॉज करता है वही प्रोसेस स्ट्रोक कॉज करता है. एक ही रीजन है कि द हार्ट अटैक क्यों जल्दी होता है, क्योंकि हार्ट के जो ब्लड वेसल है थोड़े छोटे होते हैं, ब्रेन के जो ब्लड वेसल है थोड़े बड़े होते हैं. जो डिजीज प्रोसेस है जहाँ पे आपका कोलेस्ट्रॉल क्रिस्टल्स आती है या आपके जो प्लाक्स बनते हैं, वो प्रोसेस तो सेम है. अगर आपको हार्ट प्रॉब्लम है, 150% you have to get yourself screened and you have to see that is there a risk to develop a stroke. Usually I screen most of my patients who have heart issues to see whether they have any high risk chances of a stroke. You should screen them, because if it goes undetected you could land up with a large stroke or a big stroke.
Thank you. The next question is कि क्या ये लकवा हेरिडिटरी है, और अगर हेरिडिटरी है तो कौन से स्क्रीनिंग टेस्ट है जो they can do earlier in life to make sure that they are keeping well and they don't have any risk factors.
So hereditary है, less than 5% of strokes, जो 5% के नीचे strokes होते हैं वो hereditary हो सकते हैं. यंग ऑनसेट स्ट्रोक्स मेनली हेरिडिटरी होते हैं। तो अगर आपके फैमिली में किसी को एक यंग एज में स्ट्रोक हुआ है, जैसे 40 साल के उम्र के नीचे या 50 साल के उम्र के नीचे आपको किसी को लकवा हुआ है, फिर वो फैमिली में शायद हेरिडिटरी रिस्क हो सकता है। उसके लिए देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज अ ब्लड कोएगुलेशन प्रोफाइल और थ्रोम्बोफिलिया प्रोफाइल होती है, जहाँ पे आप देखते हो रिस्क फैक्टर्स क्या होते हैं। थोड़े जेनेटिक टेस्ट भी करना पड़ता है और एक ब्लड स्पेशलिस्ट को भी आपको दिखाना पड़ता है टू सी इफ देयर इज एनी रिस्क। इन जनरल अगर वो रिस्क है, यू कैन नॉट रिड्यूस दैट रिस्क, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड दैट। मैं हमेशा पेशेंट्स को बोलता हूँ कि शायद ठीक है अगर वो हेरिडिटरी है तो भी इट इज नॉट लाइक इट डजंट मीन दैट आपको होगा ही होगा। If you take care of your lifestyle, if you take care of your diet, you take care of your exercise, you are reducing the risk. I always tell this to my patients whose relatives have a young onset of stroke. They say हम लोग को भी तो आना ही है। ऐसा नहीं होता है। अगर आप थोड़े changes करोगे आपके lifestyle में, definitely you will not, the risk is more than the general population. But if you take some efforts, you are actually negating that risk. वो risk को आप बहुत reduce कर रहे हो।
Thank you very much. The next question is transient ischemic attacks. Do they occur with strokes, and what are the symptoms and what should be done?
So transient ischemic attack is any stroke related symptoms, so numbness, weakness, speech problems, etc., which last for less than 1 hour and they recover. It's called as a transient ischemic attack. It is very similar to a chest pain which a patient gets before a major heart attack. Patient keeps getting chest pain, and then he comes with a major heart attack. So a TIA is very similar to that, where the patient might have weakness of one side, numbness of one side. He lets go of it. It becomes all right in about 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. He puts his hand in water, etc. He becomes all right, and then ignores. Then he comes with a major stroke. So patients who have a TIA are completely treatable, and it is completely preventable. So that's a very good question, very important question. In fact, most often TIAs are neglected in our population. So actually a patient who has TIA comes to us, but the big problem is when we tell them to do a lot of tests, they'll say, sir, ये तो 30-40 हजार का टेस्ट है, हम लोग क्यों करें, ये तो small symptom है. I'm sorry, it is not a small symptom. This is actually a big symptom. For example, when you get a chest pain, you will do an angiography to see if there is a block or not. Similarly, a neurologist has to do an MRI and some cardiac test to see if there is a block or not, or there is a risk factor for you to develop, a stroke, and then start treatment. Most often it is neglected, and then patient comes with a large stroke. So yes, TIA is a warning sign. It should never be neglected, and it is treatable.
Thank you very much. The next question is mood affected after stroke? To what extent and what mood changes are likely to be observed?
So yes, mood is affected after a stroke. Post-stroke depression is very common. It is seen in up to 30 to 50% of patients after a stroke, especially patients who have large stroke. It is seen. It is also seen in patients who have a young onset of stroke, because they start internalizing this symptom and they start asking, why did this happen to me? So as I said, we need to get a psychologist and a psychiatrist on board. I usually get a psychiatrist involved very early and start the patient on an antipsychotic, means basically an antidepressant, and it works well. Also, the other thing is, this is where the role of a good physiotherapist comes into play. The physiotherapist also a lot of times plays the role of a counselor for these patients by motivating these patients. So if the patient is not doing physiotherapy and expecting just the medications to work, then these are the patients who are prone. But it is a common symptom, it is treatable, and we need to address it, on a regular basis. Often it is missed in a busy practice. A lot of times patients go to a neurologist, he just looks at the patient, looks at the motor power, looks at the BP and the sugar levels, but then he forgets that there is also a psychological effect for this. So yes, and it again can be completely treated. Most of the time there is a low mood, there is a depressed mood, There could be anger issues also. Some of the patients can have anger issues. Some of the patients have significant pain. So pain causes a lot of psychological changes, especially a depression, anger issues, behavioral issues. Some patients may have insomnia and hallucinations.
Yes, thank you very much. That there was a question on changes in behavior and personality. Someone mentioned that post the stroke, her husband doesn't even seem like the same person that he was before, because he's very aggressive and he abuses a lot. So does that have to do something with the area of the brain which is affected?
Most often it has to do with the area of the brain that is involved. But again, a lot of times we sometimes don't sit down with the expectations what the patient has, expectation what the caregiver has. See, there is a caregiver burden. If somebody has to take care, if a lady, most often in our country, the person who's taking care of, means of a patient who's had a stroke is also a senior citizen or is also an elderly patient. It's not someone who's young. Now, the kids are probably just taking care by paying the money or paying the bills, but they're not there to supervise everything. So all the burden actually falls on the spouse. And sometimes the spouse is not in a position to do that because you have to manage so many other things. It's very difficult. If somebody's had a stroke, you may realize it's so difficult. Going to the bank is difficult, signing checks is difficult. India is not very easy with respect to all those things. And all this adds up to the frustration and burden in the family. And that's where our country lacks very good social workers who can address this problem. Most hospitals need to have a sort of a social worker who can have this. Most often in the West, you can see that they have a social worker who addresses most of these issues. They have a psychologist and a psychiatrist who address these issues. So the patient's expectations, we need to sit down with the patient's relatives and find out what their expectations are. And sometimes just sorting it out, just sitting across and sorting it out or starting a small antidepressant might actually help.
Yes, I think that is very important. Thank you very much. The next question is, this person said that उनको लकवा हुआ है, लेकिन फिर भी उनका जीव जो है बहुत ऐसा heavy लगता है जब वो बात करते हैं और उनकी आंखें के सामने ऐसा अंधेरा दिखता है और उनका head जो ऐसा गरम लगता है. So is that a problem, and what should he do? If you could please reply in Hindi.
Okay. तो जो जबान लड़खड़ाता है उसके लिए आपको स्पीच थेरेपी करनी पड़ती है. स्पीच जो इम्प्रूव होता है वो सिर्फ स्पीच थेरेपी के साथ ही इम्प्रूव होगा. मोस्ट ऑफन सब कुछ हम लोग देखते हैं, जैसे फिजियोथेरेपी करते पावर इम्प्रूव हो जाता है, लेकिन स्पीच थेरेपी पेशेंट करते नहीं है. ऑल्सो देयर इज अ लैक ऑफ गुड स्पीच थेरेपिस्ट. वन सिंपल थिंग विच पेशेंट कैन डू इज, पेशेंट को एक मिरर के सामने, एक आईने के सामने बैठ के उच्चारण का जो प्रयोग है वो प्रैक्टिस करना चाहिए. सो बेस्ट थिंग इज, आई टेल माय पेशेंट्स, द चीपेस्ट एंड द बेस्ट थिंग, take your newspaper in your regional language. Once you take your newspaper in your regional language, sit next to the mirror and practice speaking for half an hour. This works for Parkinson's. This also works for stroke. And other things which work is, you can use, most of us now have an Android phone or an iPhone, जहाँ पे हम लोग रिकॉर्ड कर सकते हैं और हम लोग देख सकते हैं कहाँ पे हम लोग मिस्टेक कर रहे हैं. तो हम लोग एक छोटे बच्चे की तरह उनको सिखाना पड़ता है. This is where the caregiver can also come into play. So for example, if somebody is having slurring of speech or stammering, the caregiver can calm the patient down and actually tell them how to pronounce it the right way. Okay. Also, breathing exercises help. Sometimes patients को ये याद रखनी चाहिए कि अगर वो area involve हो गया है, complete recovery शायद नहीं होगा. There are other methods like sing a song, music therapy, etc., which can also help. So if you try to speak slowly, it may actually help you out. उसके लिए practice करना पड़ेगा. You will have to go to a good speech therapist, but it can be taken care of. जो सर जो गर्म होता है और जो आंखों के सामने अंधेरा होता है, आंखों के सामने अगर अंधेरा होता है तो आपको आपका बीपी को चेक करना पड़ेगा. बहुत से पेशेंट्स को ये होती है. The other thing is, ये जो सर जो गर्म होता है, आफ्टर अ स्ट्रोक बहुत से पेशेंट्स को वैस्कुलर हेडेक, जो हम लोग पोस्ट स्ट्रोक हेडेक बोलते हैं, दे हैव दैट. तो उसके लिए भी a small drug like an antidepressant like tryptamor or amitriptyline works very well, and it takes care of most of the symptoms.
Thank you very much. The next question is, does mannitol help for a person with a stroke, and what is its role?
So the only role of mannitol's only role is when you have a large stroke and you have an edema. So after a stroke, as I said, that size of the stroke keeps increasing. वो जो सूजन आती रहती है. So sometimes the edema becomes so big that the brain is squashed like a toothpaste. So in that situation, you have to go in for surgery, or initially you try like medical management. So that is where mannitol helps. Mannitol is short acting, transient, and usually given only in the first week of a stroke, maximum up to 2 weeks. It's again not a wonder drug, but it is very beneficial in a lot of patients. In a select group of patients, it works very well.
Thank you very much. The next question actually was asked quite a few times. Post a stroke, there is a lot of spasticity or kadakpan in the body, and what are the ways that one can loosen this and reduce it? If you could say it in English,
yes.
Hindi, thank you.
English or Hindi?
Hindi, I think maybe would be.
Okay, so I will try to say this both in English and in Hindi. तो जो कड़कपन होती है या जकड़न होती है after a stroke, it is very common. It is more common after a bleed. जो hemorrhage होता है, brain hemorrhage होता है, उसके बाद वो more common है. This is again something which is not addressed by a lot of people. Again, not addressed by a lot of doctors. तो इसमें क्या होता है, अगर आपका जनरल प्रैक्टिशनर है या एमडी फिजिशियन है, वो तो बोलता है कि ये ऐसा ही रहेगा. इट इज रॉन्ग, बिकॉज जैसे जैसे आपका उम्र बढ़ता जाएगा वैसे वैसे आपका कड़कपन और आपका जो स्पेस्टिसिटी है वो बढ़ता जाता है. उसके ट्रीटमेंट ऑप्शंस है. द फर्स्ट थिंग विच विल वर्क इज एक्सरसाइज. स्ट्रेच स्ट्रेच स्ट्रेच, डू फिजियोथेरेपी, स्ट्रेच. दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग विच वर्क्स वेरी वेल. द सेकंड थिंग इज there are certain medications like baclofen, tolperizone, diazepam, clonazepam, etc., which can reduce the spasticity. तो spasticity को reduce करने के लिए कुछ गोलियां होती है जिसके वजह से patient को improvement आती है. अगर ये दो fail होते हैं, then the third thing which works is actually botulinum toxin injections, Botox injection. So I give quite a lot of Botox injections. I give for almost every week, I give like 1 or 2 patients with a stroke Botox injections. The problem here is that patients expect it to be a wonder drug. They think Botox दे देंगे तो हाथ एकदम लूज हो जाएगा और उसके बाद हम लोग ठीक हो जाएंगे. Understand one thing, Botox से जकड़न या spasticity जाता है, आपका पावर कभी इंप्रूव नहीं होता है. पावर आपका इंप्रूव होगा सिर्फ फिजियोथेरेपी से, और जो आपका बेसलाइन पावर है जो अगर वो कम है तो वो कम ही रहेगा. इंजेक्शन के बाद या कोई भी गोलियों के बाद वो इंप्रूव नहीं होगा. सो बेसिकली इंजेक्शंस, मेडिसिन एक्सेट्रा इंप्रूव द रेंज. तो अगर आपका स्पेस्टिसिटी में रेंज इतना है, आपका रेंज इंप्रूव होता है, आपका हैंड हाइजीन इंप्रूव होता है, आपका स्किन हाइजीन इंप्रूव होता है, आपका ब्लड सर्कुलेशन in that area, in that limb, it improves. But that's the only thing that happens. It doesn't cure the weakness, but there are treatment options. And for severe spasticity, again, there are things like like sympathetic blocks, sympathetic surgeries, etc., which are done, but we don't do it in our practice anymore. So most of the time with medical management and injections of Botox, it works pretty well.
Yes, and I think that's really important, that a combination of the medical management and intensive exercise.
But I tell this to my patient that please take the injections only if you are willing to take the physiotherapy. Most often they don't take the physiotherapy, and we get a bad name. So I tell my patients, if you are willing to take a series of injections, then you should be willing to do long-term physiotherapy.
Yes, and that is very important, and we've seen very good improvements when both are done together. The next question is, in spite of taking my medications, I have gotten 3 seizures after my stroke. What can I do to prevent that? So post-stroke seizures are seen in about 15% of patients, 15 to 20%. What happens is that area of a stroke becomes a scar in the brain, and it causes something called as a scar epilepsy.
तो अगर आपको वो स्कार एपिलेप्सी है तो आपको सीजर आ सकते हैं. You should go back to your neurologist and increase the dose of your anti-seizure medicines. Maybe that medicine is not working. You will have to change your medications. You can reduce it significantly. A lot of times you may not be able to cure the seizures, but you may be able to reduce the severity and the frequency.
When talking about medications, there is a question कि लकवा होने के बाद मुझे दवाई lifetime लेना है या वो कम कर सकते हैं?
Always lifetime. Always lifetime. Except for a venous stroke, if you get a venous infarct, which is seen in youngsters, where you give the treatment, the blood thinners for 6 months, 1 year, or if there is some non-treatable cause found, then we give them lifelong. But otherwise, the medications are always lifelong. That's something I tell my patients on day one, that you need to take care. If you remember in my slide, I said meds, M-E-D-S. So that is all lifelong. Huh? Your medications, your exercise, your diet is all lifelong. So you need to see that that's lifelong. Yeah.
I think one of the questions that we get asked often is when can I stop all with the exercising and the medication? So that was a very important question.
So nowadays things have changed, with the technology, etc. Patients now have to empower themselves. You have so much of technology. You can learn the exercises. You can take videos. You can ask your physiotherapist to monitor from home. You can do a WhatsApp video call. You need not pay her, or means you need not pay that person every day. If payment is a problem. A lot of times monetary issues are there after some time. So there are so many other options, but you need somebody to supervise you. It's like a gym trainer. The physiotherapist is like your gym trainer. They will know whether, but you need to have a good physiotherapist again, not somebody who's just looking for, who's actually like looking at it like he or she is just doing the chores and just taking the money. You need to step up on that and see that whether you're achieving the targets. So the role of a physiotherapist is mainly that of a trainer. The same thing is the role of a neurologist, is the role of a neurologist or a general practitioner. You're just supervising whether things are on time, whether they're doing it properly.
Yes, that's important. Thank you very much. The next question is, what is the role of stents in prevention of a second attack of stroke?
So there is no role of stem cells. Okay.
Stenting.
Okay, sorry. Okay, stents.
But yes, we can answer that question as well later.
Okay, so people keep asking this all the time. People come from abroad, and also I will say stents and stem cells both. So it's something. Stem cells is a scam. I'm sorry, I'm using very hard words, but that is the truth. The evidence for it is very poor right now. Unfortunately, as doctors, a lot of people feed on the frustrations and false hopes on these patients, and people try to give them false hopes and take them for a ride, and they end up spending a lot of money. So there is right now no evidence of stem cells showing any benefit in neurological disorders. There are trials which are going on. India is one of the few countries where people don't do any trials and they do it on a random basis. I'm sorry, you cannot do it. We need to follow ethics very clearly, and I'm very clear on that, with respect to that. In the West, it is done in a controlled environment. It's not just done randomly and on a commercial basis. So let's make that point very clear. There is a role of stents. So if a patient has got an patient has a atherosclerotic disease and patient has a significant stenosis, stent is one of the interventions which is used for prevention of recurrent strokes. So we do either a DSA or a CT angiogram of the brain. We see if there is a block, and then you can put a stent again. Again, your neurologist will help you choose. So in the West, they give stents if the patient has a significant stenosis, patient has recurrent TIAs, recurrent strokes, or patient has failed optimal medical therapy. So in India, again, we are using it, sometimes in an emergency also we give stents, or a patient is getting recurrent TIAs, but it is very effective if the case selection is right. And I use it quite a bit in my practice. So, I mean, it's something which is evidence-based and it is there in the literature.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a question actually that I've seen on WhatsApp also before, and people talk about it. Is कि अगर आप गर्म पानी से नहाएंगे तो ऐसा लकवा हो सकता है. If you do have a bath with hot water, especially on your neck, can you get a stroke?
So number one, if you're sitting, so one common cause is when people, a lot of people drown basically in the bathtubs, or they get injuries in the bathtubs. So what happens is when you sit for a long duration of time in warm water, there is actually pooling of blood in the peripheries, there is vasodilatation. And when you suddenly stand up and change your position, you actually get very dizzy because the brain is not able to auto-regulate. And then you fall down, you get injured, etc. So having a bath in hot water is not bad, it's right. Okay. But in some people, what happens is it can probably trigger severe vasodilatation and pooling of blood, as a result of which they can fall down and injure themselves, but they will not get a paralytic attack. They will not get a paralytic attack or a stroke. It's a misnomer. But again, we always tell this is very commonly seen. A lot of people in the West, etc., they're in the sort of a bathtub, they're sitting for a long time in warm water, they're having a drink, enjoying it. Suddenly they try to get up, they get very dizzy, fall down, probably they injure themselves, they even drown. It's known to happen. It's a very rare phenomenon, but it's known to happen. So anything in excess is not very good. Same with hot water.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, what are the differences in symptoms, if any, between an ischemic stroke and hemorrhagic stroke, and can one identify what type of stroke they're having at home itself?
So it's unlikely that you can identify what type of stroke you're having. But one of the ways is recurrent TIAs. You get the symptom, you improve, get the symptom, you improve. It's more of a sign of a ischemic stroke. Hemorrhagic stroke is it's basically like a bomb blast. It's like you've had a bomb blast, and at the onset itself, the symptoms are explosive. High blood pressure is usually seen with hemorrhagic strokes, not seen with ischemic strokes, but we are now seeing even ischemic strokes having high blood pressure. The easiest way of diagnosing is by doing a CT scan, a simple CT scan. I use MRI brain because that's more sensitive, that's more specific, rules out all other things like a tumor, etc. But the easiest thing you can ever do is just, a CT scan, and CT scan can easily rule out a hemorrhage. Yeah. But in general, if you have risk of hypertension, you have high blood pressure at the onset, you have seizures at the onset. So these all can sometimes say that it could be a hemorrhagic stroke. But again, it's not very sensitive. So still, clinical examination has got its limitations. You would still have to do imaging to confirm the diagnosis.
Thank you very much. The other question is BP के बारे में. One is to कैसे control करना है, and also can low BP also cause like a stroke, or is it only high BP?
So yeah, it's actually a very good question. Blood pressure management is, so number one is you need to have a good GP or a physician who can control your blood pressure. A lot of times I feel that the threshold for people to control their blood pressure is not very good out here. They say, even in my clinical practice, patients say they climbed 2 stairs, they walked 5 minutes, they ran a little bit, they're stressed out, the BP is on the higher side. So you have to have at least about 5 out of 10 readings to be on the higher side to say that patient has high blood pressure. So you can't use a single reading. Yes, I agree with that. But blood pressure needs to be controlled in a multimodal way. Number one is medications. Number two is the diet, where you have a low sodium diet, increase the fluids in your diet. Okay. Number three is exercise. So exercise has got significant benefit for blood pressure reduction. One of the things which we often don't do is aggressive cardiac exercise. Cardio exercises help to reduce the blood pressure. Low blood pressure can sometimes cause a stroke if you have a significant block in your carotids. That is what we call as a hemodynamic stroke. So very rarely a low blood pressure can cause a stroke. Again, patients who have cardiac diseases may have low blood pressure, and that can cause cardioembolic strokes also. But in general, the risk is more for high blood pressure patients rather than the low blood pressure patients. And again, there is good evidence that diet helps to control your blood pressure. If you look again in our diet, we have these papads and pickles and salads mixed with, a lot of, we also underestimate, a lot of the vegetables have got sodium in them. So most of our spices, we put a lot of salt in our diet. So I think our salt restriction is something which is the simplest thing you could do. You see the dals that we have, they're very tasty, but then I guess we put a lot of salt in it. So we're not really bringing down that risk. That's why we have to take more and more medications. So just sometimes looking at your diet actually makes a huge change.
You were talking about the diet and reducing your salt intake, and I think most people are going to have to rethink their lunch plan after this session. But but what they do talk about is the DASH diet also for stroke, where you have
Correct.
sodium, whether it's your food or packaged.
So you can actually Google the DASH diet, and most of the people can actually Google the DASH diet, look at the recommended requirements, per day, and follow it in your lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just a few more questions. One of the questions is, why are more young people having strokes nowadays, people in their 20s and 30s?
Lifestyle. Lifestyle. Lack of sleep, lack of exercise, poor diet,
Correct. And does drugs also, sorry, that was the next part, does drugs taking, these recreational drugs that people...
Recreational drugs, smoking, and alcohol, excessive alcohol, all three. It's very high risk.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question that has been asked repeatedly is, in terms of recovery, that some people have said कि अभी 6 महीना हुआ, अभी 1 साल हुआ, अभी 2 साल हुआ, and still I have not able to say a few words, or only speaking 1 or 2 words, or I'm still not able to be back to my complete independence. So how does that vary, the recovery period, and what can people expect?
So recovery is unpredictable, as I said. The other thing is that it also depends on the area of the stroke and the severity of the stroke. So, but I always keep telling my patients that you need to continue your rehab until complete recovery is reached. You need to continue your rehab. You will get better at it, because you are competing with a normal population, but the more you keep exercising, you're actually going up the ladder. The more you do your rehab, the more you make efforts, you are going into your own comfort zone, whereas the others are actually coming down from their comfort zone as age is advancing. So you will get better at it. You will adjust your life better. Now, of course, there's a lot of work on artificial intelligence. There's a lot of work on there's a lot of work on like medical technology, etc. I'm sure in the next 5 years things are going to get better. You may have things where you may have artificial intelligence speak things out for you, or you may have some translators for you, or apps which can help to convert that into speech, the text to speech program, etc. So things would get better, but you have to continue your speech therapy and physiotherapy on a regular basis. That's the only thing which will help you out.
Thank you very much, and thank you for answering so many questions.
No problem.
Quick fire round. But are there any last words of advice that you would like to give people? We have 50 people joining us today. I think maybe more also on Facebook Live. But anything that, because India is one of the leading countries where stroke is concerned, that we do have a very high rate of people getting strokes. So what would be your final message to people?
So my message is that I just want to tell people that stroke is not the end of life. So it is like any other disease. If intervened at the right time, you may be able to limit the damage and you may be able to achieve a good recovery after stroke, provided you have a good team which is actually working at it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. I really thought it was a very informative session. I learned so much listening to you, and the comments also from everyone attending is brilliant. And, they really, really thought that was very informative. So
I try to make it very simple for the patients so that, when like Maria told me that she wanted it in English and Hindi, I'm sorry, my Hindi is not so strong, but I wish,
no, you did a
it's
great
very
job.
difficult to put the technical terms in Hindi, that's the hard part. Yeah.
You did a great job. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for kickstarting our educational series in such a great way.
Yeah, thanks, Anil, so much. I think it was a very informative. We've learned a lot, and everyone's learned a lot. In fact, even I have really understood stroke in a very different way. And I think what you've stressed on is the whole importance of the multidisciplinary management. It's not just medication, but it's a combination of so many things post-stroke, and even to avoid a stroke. I think exercising and diet and simple things we can do to ensure that we don't get there. So thanks, Anil, for your time and for always being there for the PDMDS. And thanks, Nicole, for really doing an excellent job of coordination. And to the entire audience for being with us. I do hope you enjoyed the session. And we will inform you when we have the next series in our educational program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'm just sharing the contact details. And for those of you who'd like to re-watch the program, it will be available on our Facebook page. So please do check that out, and I'll give you the details. These are our contact details. If you know anyone who has Parkinson's, please do contact us. We have support in multiple languages, and we do have centers all over India right now, which are all online. We do also have counseling services for people with Parkinson's, which are done over the phone. And if you'd like to know more information about any exercises, any information about the activities that we do, please do follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have a lot of Facebook updates and also our website. Thank you for joining us and have a good day.